W3 Group. We are very excited to have you here for, the Tsunami Network. Tsunami is a fully remote network of builders and founders from all over the world, and we're trying to help founders from ideation to funding. And we're, always very happy to have our partners and interesting people, personas here help our founders and tell them a little bit more about our partner network. And W3 is actually a partner
Mhm.
for this Venturethon and hopefully also for all the future Venturethons. Yeah, so welcome, Victoria. And I would, we know each other now a couple of years, and yeah, it's always been great working with you. You have great events in the W3 Hub in Berlin.
Thank you.
But maybe, yeah, could you briefly introduce yourself and yeah, say hi to our founders from our cohort?
Yes. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Victoria. Most of the people call me Vicky. In the past 5 years, I think now, I've been building a lot of different projects in the Web3 space, all underneath the W3 Group company. We started in 2021 as an early stage, or not even like early stage VC, but before that, we are six co-founders in total, started to invest together in digital assets, and out of that, we basically somehow created or founded the W3 Fund, investing in early stage Web3 startups. Then, with all the events that we were hosting and all the conferences and the community driven initiatives, we founded the W3 Vision, which is like an event and media house. And then what was the, yeah, okay, then afterwards, I think now 3 years ago, we got the chance to get into this beautiful building that is now the W3 Hub, which is a co-working and community space. We had the chance to launch another fund, a liquid token fund 1 year later, and a staking company, which is called W3 Labs. So I know it can be a bit complicated, is a lot to explain, but all in all, we're doing our best to push Web3 to its limits.
Wonderful. What was the moment you decided that Web3 wasn't just interesting, but something you wanted to build your life around?
So I had the privilege to study together with Henrik and Nate, so two of my co-founders. We studied at the Code University of Applied Sciences in Berlin. And at this university, you kind of have a very digital driven environment. So we were quite lucky that we got a scholarship for our project, which was not Web3 related at all. But one of our professors mentioned that NFTs are like a very new and interesting thing. We should have a look at it, which was in 20, like very, very early 2021. Um, and I don't know how everyone else here in this call was aware of Web3, or back then it was Web3 was not even a term. So it was just NFTs and the metaverse for us. But when we started to have a closer look into it, there was not too much resources about NFTs. About crypto, yes, because of Bitcoin and Ethereum. You had a lot of things around blockchains, but everything else that now is the fundamental of Web3 was very, very new back then. And for us, it was rather so we were in our early 20s. We know that the internet or the .com bubble and the internet boom in the early 2000s generated a lot of new things and exciting things, but back then we were too young, obviously. And now or back then in our early 20s, we thought that after understanding how blockchains and especially NFTs work, like as a concept and as a use case, for some reason it felt like, okay, this is something that could be big and could have a lot of positive value to the internet basically. Now looking at it, it's funny how what everything else evolved out of that as well. But back then it just felt like this is this new technology and it looks solid, and there are not too many people in that yet. We could be one of these few people. And due to our scholarship, we were just very lucky that we could, for a couple of months, without doing anything else, just jump into it. And the more you learn, the more you understand. And I had this aha moments almost every day. And yeah, up until now, never did something else.
That's very cool and very impressive what you built
Mhm.
there. If you know, what was your biggest doubt during, this phase? As an entrepreneur for the last 25 years, I know as an entrepreneur, you're always like in between billionaire and prison.
Mhm.
And so it's like always a pretty big ride. So what was your biggest doubt?
Um, Honestly, the biggest doubt is to stay relevant and adapt to everything that is changing within that space. So, um, for some reason, I'm a very positive and optimistic person. So for me, it's very difficult to be not motivated about the things that I do. But during the last 5 years, we've been to all sorts of market phases and cycles. And even though we could always focus on different like types and layers of our businesses depending on where we were in the market, I could definitely see that many people, unfortunately, around us needed to like quit their companies or like switch their jobs because all of a sudden AI was such a big thing. And I mean, now it's also just given the market, it's a bit more difficult in Web3 right now. But um, for some reason, like this never stopped the smart people, at least that I know in my environment, to focus on like building and continuing without having a look at all the charts around us. And I think this is something that's very difficult. Um, but that next to that, I had barely doubts actually in building companies, luckily.
That's good. That's definitely helpful. Um, and if you look at the past years that you started this, what did you get right, and maybe what did you get wrong? In these early years
Mhm.
about building this ecosystem.
Yeah. Maybe let's start with what I didn't get right or what was rather wrong or where I learned probably the most. Um, I think something that is completely underestimated is building the right team and hiring. So really, like it starts with, do you really know why you should hire a person? Does this person have a specific role, task, or goal? Are you just trying to hire someone for the sake of hiring, or because you now got funded, have all this liquidity, and you could scale and increase your team size? But really knowing what you need this person to do is something very crucial that I would say we learned along the way, especially when it came to W3 Hub and the companies that we've been basically building from scratch. If just because Henrik, Nate, and myself, who were doing the most operational tasks within our companies, we knew how to work together, the three of us. And whenever something was needed, someone just took care of it. But if you hire people, you cannot expect everyone to have the like exact same mindset and passion to your work. And it can be very difficult for someone to just be that flexible and that spontaneous. And when the person starts, you don't really know what to give this person because you're building this from scratch. So that was something that we learned. And I think having all of these processes defined and documented, guys try to document everything. The person who needs to take care of this will thank you at some point. um, we're now at a phase where I would say we have a really, really great team and everyone knows exactly what to do and what this person can create the most value. And maybe something that was good, honestly, just like the first thing that comes into my mind is content and media. And maybe in my case, personal branding. Um, like having a strong voice on whatever channel you might choose. For me, it's rather LinkedIn. Opens a lot of doors that you don't really think of when you start from scratch, especially because there's so many negative thoughts connected to, oh, now I'm the expert and I need to share stuff that we're doing on a platform where I have basically no following. Back then, I had no following at all. Um, but really keeping the consistency. And I'm doing this for 5 years now. 5 or 6 years, I don't know, to really share your story, share your doubts, share your success, obviously, and be active as like the voice of the topic that you're representing, is something that probably helped us a lot in all sorts of areas, but especially in order to create trust. And don't underestimate how much time that also needs. And like really having a good reputation and generating trust is something that you cannot enforce in within a couple of months. You really need to build that up, and grow together with the people who are like following you. Yeah, that was my monologue.
Yeah, and you know, I admire you very much for this newsletter
Mhm.
also. I mean, you are really producing great content, and we're reading this with a
Thank
lot
you.
of joy. So for everyone, you need to sign up for the W3 newsletter because Victoria is really doing a great job there. So, you know, we had this question when you start, what if you would start all over again, what would you do differently, maybe? How would you change the things you did before?
Or um, how what would I do differently? Let me think about. So, I mean, I don't have to tell you that now with AI, you can basically create a lot of things from scratch without taking money or onboarding more partners. But I think this is not like this is something that probably everyone would tell you right now. Um, but what I would do differently is, so even though it works for us, and we had like very like not only luck, obviously it's also due to the fact that we work great as a team, but we were lucky that we could do a lot of things simultaneously. But I don't know if this is something for everyone, like building, having all of these companies running simultaneously. And whereas we started with a fund, all of a sudden we were doing events, all of a sudden we were doing this co-working space thing, and it all generated a funnel to our funds, which was very important to us. But nevertheless, you all of a sudden create more businesses next to something that you should actually treat as your like core and main project. Because even though you have a good team and a big team, it some I think it's not underestimated that you should have a focus and a clear path, because it can be very difficult to lose this focus because you have all of a sudden another business that you need to take care of. So that was a hard ride, honestly. Even though this ecosystem initiative that we're basically doing with all of our companies, it works for us, but it's probably not for everyone. So have one target group or a couple of targets group, have one goal, and try to achieve this first and not do a lot of things on the way.
That's great advice. That's what we tell our founders all the time. Focus, focus, focus.
Yeah.
Um, what kind of founder personally excites you beyond the deck and metrics?
Um, Personally, probably the crazy ones. So I think the ones that s- like seem crazy because this most of the time, I mean, it can also be associated with scam, especially in the Web3 space. But I love people who are like really burning for the stuff that not only they're building, but they want to explain to you. And you could definitely feel that this person knows their shit. Um, and most of the time, it's the crazy ones because they don't probably have like the basic CV, or have not, I don't know, like the basic network. And I can also just speak for me personally. There are people who just slide in your DMs and say, "Hey, we're raising around," and then they do this classic follow up email, or maybe they write you on LinkedIn again, but with a very generic message. Um, and I think this is something that for me personally is rather a red flag or like a minus point for that founder, because I'm always thinking like, why are you not more creative or trying to find a better way to reach a VC instead of just probably, I guess, like copying an email list and just writing everyone who has like the tag of Web3 VC, and maybe this person sees your email and maybe this person is going to reply to you. But if you don't really take the effort to get in touch with the right people and try to find a way, a memorable way where people might remember you because of, I don't know, like you somehow got into W3 Hub, you brought a cake and you were like, okay, I want to talk to you guys. Here's a cake. Is more memorable than like the 10th email that I get from the same person pitching me their amazing startup. So yeah, be creative, be memorable, and try to, you don't necessarily need to be crazy, obviously. But you need, like, we see a lot of people, we read a lot of decks and we talk to a lot of people, and you need that special extra in order to be remembered. And I think this is most probably results of all of these things that I've just mentioned.
I fully support that. I mean, everybody here gets so many spam emails and cold emails,
Hmm.
and I don't
Hmm.
understand how a lot of founders believe that investors that even get more emails than the average person, will react to a cold email like, "Hey, I have this great startup, please fund me." It's like,
Yeah,
no, it doesn't
yeah,
work like that. Please at least look at, the portfolio, at least look at a little bit more background information. Yeah, that's definitely a great point.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, that's also maybe the next question. What's the difference between founders who almost make it and the ones who actually break through? I mean, we're seeing a lot of these that almost make it their first revenue, and some really make the
Mhm.
breakthrough. Where do you see the real difference?
Um, I would say, especially in Web3 again, we've seen a lot of founders and also founders within our portfolio who are strong enough to say no, or rather say yes to a pivot and really adapting to circumstances without losing their spirit. So being able to do that, and I think because we're investing in early stage startups, you rather invest, and this is probably that's in every like early stage VC one-on-one playbook. Everyone is basically telling you to invest in the team, not the idea. And this is especially true in Web3, where the narratives change on a very regular basis, and then you have so many other um, points that play a role in how the space is evolving, that you need to be able to create a resistance and being able to see new opportunities where maybe before you haven't seen them because you were so tied to the initial product that you're building. But you can say yes to a pivot, and a pivot does not mean that you failed in a way. It can even create something completely new and maybe something better that works way better than the pitch that you've created before. And this is completely normal to do that as well. So um, I really admire the founders who are able to do that and not giving up just because this one idea that you had once needs to stay the same and you're not able to build that.
And how do you evaluate people if you look at them? I mean, I understand founders need to be consistent, and able to pivot and be flexible as a founder. But how do you, I mean, I had that so often, that you hire someone and like three months later you're like, whoa, I didn't expect that to happen, So how do you do that?
Oh, this is actually a very difficult thing, and I think um, you cannot, like, I would not say that I'm the best like reader. Like I cannot read people as good as maybe other people in my environment, but I think you need to ask the right questions about how motivated they are for a specific thing, or especially in hiring. What I do now is that I just ask people where they actually want to be. It's like not the classical where do you want to be in 10 years, but rather what's driving you. What is something that you want to achieve in your life? And I think given by that answer, you can already see if this person has like big ambitions, goals, or is maybe also happy with the status quo. I don't know. And this is something that you can apply to so many other things, like also in talks with, in like these founder calls that we have when we meet a team. I rather like to understand persons like personal drive, and then I can somehow make my mind up on rather do I bet on the right horse or not, regardless of hiring or like a founder.
Great. Um, what traits are underrated in Web3 founders today?
Um, Underrated. I think, like in my perception, we're already changing that a lot. But I think I cannot highlight it more often is that you don't need to be a techie. Like you, obviously, blockchain is a lot more technical than many other things, or many other products, but you don't need to be like a programmer, like a software engineer, in order to found a Web3 company. I would speak for basically all of us, where none of us, like, we have a couple of people who know how to write code, but in my case, I did not know anything about everything that I do right now. So 6, 7 years ago, I did not even really understood how blockchain works. I had a couple of courses at university, but even then, I didn't understand it. And just because I for some like I had a new path, or I had a new way to get in, and I just took the time to understand it from a different perspective. For some reason, it helped me a lot in order to like really dig deep and learn everything from scratch. Same for event management, conferences, co-working space building. I've never built a co-working space in my life before, but did this for the very first time also with W3 Hub. And this is definitely something that, yeah, I would highly encourage people to do that. You don't need to be this tech person, but if you have a different skill set, you can create a team that applies the certain things that you need for your company.
And I mean, also regarding the answer you gave to a prior question, why did you build or choose to build an ecosystem instead of just a fund? Would you change that because you said focus a little more, or would
Mm,
you again
yeah.
build like a bigger thing?
So the thing, I know I said that with like take your focus, but especially for so we raised our very first fund, and we don't really had like we have a track record based on the founders that are also in this company, but it's not like we already raised these amount of funds track record. So we knew that we needed to do something that is maybe a bit more different. Um, and simultaneously, we realized that, especially in Web3, and I think this didn't change a lot, is that it was always about community, about people exchanging, about people sharing their visions, sharing their knowledge. So we just thought that 5 years ago, it would make sense to also host a little event in our office where we invited, I think back then, 30 people or so. And they were a big mix of VCs, founders, people we just had in our network, in our ecosystem. And for us, right from the beginning, it was clear, okay, let's not do like this regular event. You invite people, there's a little bit of finger food, maybe a talk, but honestly, it has no agenda. And create this agenda that can be, again, that word, memorable for the people who joined our event. So what we did is that we had like people came in, and then we had like a 5 minute talk where we shared what we see in the Web3 space back then as a fund. Then a little break, pizza. Then the second time, back then NFTs were a really big thing, so we opened like NFT boxes together. And then I don't remember what the third part was, but people really liked the fact that they were basically entertained throughout this whole event, what they didn't expect. And this is where we realized, okay, when we create this content and community driven VC perspective, we can generate a whole new funnel for not only investors, but especially Web3 founders who want to be part of that like system. We created afterwards a lot of events. We had a good reputation in the event space and also on social media. So we created this value. So I would encourage everyone to think outside of the box. But what we did, and I don't necessarily think it's something bad, but it's out of this, we do a couple of events. We had the opportunity to found a company that was mainly focusing on events, and we did that. So okay, you all of a sudden have another company. And also with the co-working space, we never wanted to run a co-working space. We didn't even think about something like this, but we just had a chance from a business partner to check out the building and decide on whether we want to have an office. But it's just very typical for us to see a bit more into the future and think, why not living this content and community driven VC life in a building? And we can just do a co-working space. Let's try. And this is how it all went. But you don't need to found companies. You can also just do events and mainly focus on your VC business. But after like looking back, I would not really change the fact that we were thinking in this ecosystem thought, because I think and this is just my opinion, it's not enough anymore to just be a VC and hand out money. I mean, it depends on your stage and like how many people are involved in this, but you have to be a bit more special and a bit more community driven or brands driven or whatsoever, in order for great founders to also choose you as a VC. So, I mean, there are two rounds on two sides. On the one hand, as a VC, you're searching for investors, but you also want to have the best founders. So sometimes there are founders who don't need VC money or already have like a very good cap table. But we sometimes only got in because we have this platform component that we can bring with us. So some of our founders now have an office at W3 Hub, or they've been featured on all of the events that we were hosting. And we have this like give and take that's very unique in a way.
That is cool. And what do you think is harder, like building a startup or an ecosystem like you guys did?
Well, I I think
Both hard.
ecosystem because it involves more startups.
That's true. That's true. There's more different ones involved.
Hmm.
And is there like a Web3? I mean, I just went to East Denver and uh, to be honest, it was a little bit depressing to go to the main event. I know nobody
Mm.
goes to main events anyhow, but it was like a
Yeah.
third of the size, ETH halved in the last months. And we all know of this ups and downs and so on. But like, first of all, what do you think of the current market? And is there something, a belief that maybe only you hold or that most people disagree with? I think both questions are interesting.
I have a very like probably boring take to the market. I think you always see that when crypto, and this is the thing that I actually don't like about crypto is the fact that everything is very, very much tied to the market. So also in size of how many people are participating in that space. I would say that everyone in the Web3 space is telling you this is actually the best time. People have like enough time to build, and you don't really have the scammer or the people with the wrong interests anymore. But nevertheless, I think everyone feels that it's a bit more depressing because all of a sudden, a lot of people lose interests, be it business partners or be it people in the space themselves. And we are humans. We want to have this proof of we're doing the right thing. So having good market circumstances usually generate more people being around you and interested in what you do. So I totally get that. But I think, and I don't want to hold like in Germany you would say the Glaskugel. So want to predict the future or anything, but we have such a very critical like environment in the world right now that I totally understand that everyone uh, is not playing the risky bet anymore. And crypto is always like the most riskiest assets that people, or it seems to be that people are investing in. So that's is probably one of the reasons why everything is like very negative in a way. And for the events, so I also have a very straight opinion in terms of events, even though there are these like couple of big events and conferences around the world that everyone is attending, I think we reached a point where we also need to consider something new for events because it's, as you said, like no one is really going to the main conference. Why is the main conference then even existing? Like, what's the point to invite all of these sometimes amazing speakers if they don't speak in front of someone? Because everyone else is just like purely networking or visiting other more exciting, more intimate and smaller events around that main conference. So I think this is also something that connected with a rather bad market creates a very like maybe depressing feeling you have when you attend these events. So I think there are different perspectives on how to see it. But yeah, I don't know something that people know better. No, I don't know something that people don't know in terms of like the market and everything. But for me, I mean, I've been in this space for 6 years. I've seen a lot. I'm very, very confident about the crypto and Web3 markets.
That's important. I mean, for me, it was interesting when I started. We had this more sort of notion about decentralization, and we want to change the world, DeFi versus TradFi. And now at ETH Denver, I for the first time, I think I saw the chairman of the SEC at ETH Denver, talking about regulation, and people actually applauded in the end. They weren't booing. So it was kind of interesting to me, and I felt a little bit that the Ethereum community in general moved a little bit from DeFi to TradFi and now saying, hey, yeah, cool. We really appreciate that all the TradFi is now using our technology and we're happy that it's not visible in the front anymore. Is that also
Yeah.
something, that you seem inevitable and you think decentralization is therefore, out of scope right now, or do you think both is still on?
Mm. Um, I think it's very natural that these things happen. So first of all, the use case of payments and stable coins, honestly, for the majority of people, probably super boring because most of us don't really understand how financial systems works that well. But nevertheless, for all of these banks, or I would say like traditional finance companies that we've also been working a lot in the past years, we also did a lot of marketing events for these companies. I think the reason that they're jumping on is like honest, obviously like the infrastructure that they could adapt, which automatically leads to finding solutions that are less decentralized. Because if you tie this to regulations, and having all these regulations in different countries also being different, you need to have like a centralized, more centralized power in order to use this. And the second thing is that probably for most of the banks, all of their like younger customers are investing in crypto, so they want to have a new digital product that they could basically offer them. Um, and I think, and this is also like my bold opinion, but not like like it's not the right thing and it's not also not the wrong thing. But I think in the end that the majority of people also don't really care about decentralization. It's similar to most of us also don't really care about security. That's why we're accepting all the cookies and all the things, the checkboxes when we like uh, sign up or log in into another website. Most of us just accept everything because we don't really mind that much or have nothing to hide. And I think also with the decentralization part, it's rather a very nice narrative, and it applies 100% to the people who have been in the Bitcoin space or like the early ETH space for quite some time. But in the end, and this is probably where the market changes, is this is a technology that hopefully just works and solves problems. And the small niche of people who like really value the core OG crypto cypherpunk values, that this group will remain. I'm pretty sure about that. The internet can also be used on different levels, but I think we will slightly shift into like more, yeah, less decentralized, less secret and dark, and rather, okay, this is a new technology that people are going to adapt. So it can be boring for some people, but can also be very, very excited if all of a sudden things work because blockchain is the power or the engine of it.
Wonderful. And if you look at your fund, and all the projects that you supported, what are maybe one or two or three projects that you're, especially proud of in terms of your support?
Hmm. Let me think. I think one of the projects that I'm most proud of is, on the one hand, Mentor. They're doing stable coins and especially focusing on the African market, where all the currencies suffer inflation or are not like, or are, or countries that are more, how do you say, um, oh, sorry, I'm missing the English word here. Uh, let's just skip that because I don't know the English word, and I also don't know the German word for that. I'm missing that. Um, but meant to do stablecoin payment rails. We have a gaming company that, even though a lot of people say gaming is not that relevant anymore, gaming is dead. They called Voya Games, are also sitting at W3 Hub, and I love the fact that for years they've been building games or game engines and are adapting to the current market needs, and also not focusing on blockchain at the forefront, at the front, but rather it's something that works in the back. And other than that, you can have a lot of fun by playing your game. Um, and who else? I would have. These are the companies that I've been talking to in the past a couple of days. I have to think about. I have to think about this
Yeah, that's
again. So,
wonderful. That's
yeah.
perfect. Please, everybody, check them out and see whether, we can be of support. What does success look like for you personally in 5 to 10 years?
For me personally, success.
Yeah.
Uh, okay. Um, so for me, the reason that we never decided to found our companies outside of Germany was the fact that we were all born and raised in Germany, and we would love to see more innovation in not only Germany but also Europe. So that's why we never decided to like found a company in Dubai or wherever people do that, in order to not only avoid taxes but also to make the bureaucratic efforts a bit more easier. But for us, everything that we do is like on German ground. And even though it takes more time and is way more expensive to do a lot of things that we've been doing, we always wanted to push innovation from Berlin, especially. And I would love to see Europe also more evolving into that direction. I think it's quite sad to see that we have a lot of, I don't want to say competition in a way, because I think innovation is great wherever it is being distributed. But you have a lot of smart people migrating to other countries, especially the US or to Asia. And I think it's a pity to see that. So hopefully, we can, and this is because you asked about like success for me. Hopefully, we can create an environment with the ecosystem that we've built for people to do their projects in like Germany or stay in Europe, and have these like really nice founder stories, and especially the spirit as well. Um, back where we were all born and raised to a certain point. And I hoped that, I think, because I'm asking myself a lot, what's like the thing where you would say, okay, now I'm happy. Um, I think on a like from a career perspective, I, personally, I want to create something that people remember, and people take their value from it. So something that is a bit more sustainable than a quick cash grab or whatsoever. And this is for me very, very meaningful then. So I hope to have certain, um, yeah, to have a lot of people in our environment to follow this path.
That's a wonderful answer. And I think we also have some questions from the audience. Maybe Diksha can ask that after my last question, because I really want
Yes.
to very much to what you just said. Um, I think Europe is, one of the best places to live in the world, and we have now like a kingdom in the US, and we have dictatorships in Asia often, or in Russia. So I think it is so unfortunate and sad in a way that we are sort of moving the best people still out into areas where there is a political situation which we don't support, but these people seem to have better economic outlook. Just look at the OpenClaw founder who just was pretty much acquired by OpenAI, which is, in my opinion, really sad. And that's also part why we built Tsunami, because we want to build a network of, very smart people, smart advisors, experienced advisors who support the founders from all over the world. And what we do now is we are minting tokens to our audience, to our cohort, and they can use these tokens to pay advisors, and the advisors can extract 50% of the token value and exchange it for cash, and the other 50% they have to reinvest into the ventures on the platform. Would that something that we could actually convince you as an experienced founder also to
Mhm.
participate?
I mean, I guess send me everything that I need to know about this and let's talk.
Perfect. That's what I wanted to hear, because I think we actually need that experience. And now over to Diksha. Please, are there questions from the
Yes.
audience?
I'm just thinking like if some of them were already covered in your chat.
Ah, yeah,
What
okay.
Safe to go from the top picture.
okay, so what patterns do you see among successful Web3 founders?
I think it was kind of already like mentioned while I was talking. Um, they are open for a lot of ideas and not stick to just like one thing. You can tell that they're like crazy in a way that and on how they speak about things. Um, Most of them do not only do tech, but especially business development is also something that they're like either familiar with or coming from that area. Um, yeah, that's mainly it.
Yeah. Okay. So, and what advice would you give to a first-time Web3 founder?
Mm, for first time Web3 founder. Okay, so what I would do is because I don't know if this is also something that's happening in other industries, but we've hosted or co-hosted already a lot of hackathons. I mean, you're doing this as well, but you can validate ideas, get in touch with the right people, and earn some money if you just participate in hackathons. So if you have a specific idea, I would actually try out a couple of hackathons and see how like it's perceived, what feedback do you get, and then, and I think this is a very crucial point, um, regardless of Web3 or not Web3, being a founder and running a company is a lot of responsibility. And I know the Web3 space can be like fluffy, and you have all these people with their PFPs and a lot of like fun and memes and stuff. But don't underestimate the fact that you're running a business, that you're asking people for cash, that you need to pay employees at some point. So I think there's a difference then after winning a couple of hackathons and running a business afterwards, that you just need to be open for. Like it's very bureaucratic. You have to do a lot of admin things. After we founded a couple of more companies, honestly, my job is a lot of admin and financials, and I didn't expect that 5 years ago. But this is something that you just need to be ready for. And other than that, really make sure to validate your idea. But this does not only apply to Web3 founders, in general, founders really understand or make sure that you understand what you're building and for whom.
Yeah, that's amazing. And also, like, there are numerous grants, so everybody opens a lot of doors for you.
Yeah,
So, first try that. Yeah, amazing.
yeah.
This is interesting. So, which Web3 sectors are underrated right now and which trends are overhyped?
Okay. Honestly, I think I don't know specifically what's underrated because I don't think it's underrated. But I think everything around this TradFi narrative, so payments and stablecoins, it's not a new topic and it was more hyped probably a couple of months before. But I still think, because I talk to a lot of banks and asset managers, that this is still a very, very interesting topic or industry to be in because everything is very slow on their end. And there's still a lot of like not only time, but resources and things that you can do in that space. And something where I don't, where it seems to be overhyped, but I don't think it's overhyped is anything around these AI agents. So having potential payment rails for agents that at some point in our lives will do a lot for us.
Mm-hmm.
As for now, there are not too many opportunities for them to run banking accounts or to transfer money. But in order to create this possibility, having stable coins or I don't know what in the future will be evolved in order for agents to transfer information or make transactions. I still think it's very exciting to be part of that, especially because AI is changing so much on a very regular basis. So I think these two things sound very non-Web3 because it's all coming like from a different perspective. But I think, and this is just my opinion, that Web3 will not be the core um, core message to people. If you run a company, you will not have in your quote a Web3 based company or we run on blockchain or so ever. You're just solving problems with the technology. So I think you need to adapt to other industries or other technologies. My opinion.
Yeah, no, that's good to know. I think this we already spoke a bit about. What's your outlook at W3 fund? What do you look for in startup and in the founder? So maybe we can skip that, or what do you think?
I
You want to add something?
think um I mean no, I think I've mentioned everything before.
Yeah, cool. Uh, this also, I think, what should founders validate before writing a single line of code? So yeah, hackathons, and you just validate your idea. When should a startup not use a token?
Uh, Probably 99% of the time. I think um, it's my love and hate relationship with tokens. I understand that it's an easy way to generate liquidity to raise capital, but I think don't underestimate how complex tokenomics are, and that not everyone can just create a token and say we're giving something back to the community or I don't know, basically everything what everyone else is saying. The pitch is very similar to most of the people. I think run your business first, create a solution to problems that like exist, and at some point you might want to release a token, but you don't necessarily need to. Like, I mean, Base is now. I think they announced that they would release a token, but it took them also years of building. And obviously, well, it's easy to build within the Coinbase ecosystem because you have all that capital to do that. But nevertheless, it was a blockchain that also works without a token and generates a lot of, or has a community also without a token. And the token is now the add on in terms of being decentralized whatsoever. I think most of the time it is to generate more cash, and I think it's also fine. I mean, it's a good reason, but I think you should be able to run a successful company without a token, and then only in order to decentralize it more or really give something back, whatever you might have for tokenomics whatsoever, then it makes sense.
Yeah,
But
that's
but
interesting.
I have to say when a company um, sends us their pitch deck and it's something involved in, hey, we're an early stage company, we have basically no customers, but we're launching a token soon. It's rather a red flag.
Wow, that's a good tip. And also a good case study. I mean, with Coinbase. Yeah, I never thought about that. Okay. What growth strategies work better in Web3 as compared to Web2? It's a
Uh, yeah, it's tokens. Even though it's counterintuitive to what I just said. Um, I think something that works better is the fact that it is by nature a very global community. So I think I've never experienced that anywhere else. Maybe it's similar to the AI community, but you have people literally being around the world. You have a market that has no closing times. So everyone is always like trading on the chain, doing things regardless of their location. And you have Twitter or X, which is probably the most important communications tool for everyone in Web3. You can share so many things on demand and be in contact with so many other people. So it's very easy to generate hype very quickly, I would say. So if you would say hype and growth are similar, then yes. Um, but yeah, in general, you have access to a lot more people because you don't necessarily need to stay in your country or your market. Like, obviously, we started to do everything in German back in the days, but at some point we realized, okay, in order to like reach way more people, you have to communicate in English and you have to open up your doors. And I think this is very, very straightforward and easy for Web3 founders to do that as well.
amazing. Okay, this is more generic, like long answer maybe. Long, bootstrapping versus raising. When does each make sense?
Um, Even though I'm a venture capital person, I would say that try to bootstrap as long as you can, because that gives you the freedom to really build what you want and really also make sure that you did everything that you can in order to understand the value and the worth of the project that you or the company that you're building. I think depending on the idea and depending on what you need. Obviously, if you need to raise capital because you're building a data center, then it makes sense. But if you're just speaking about the little products that most of the Web3 companies are, um, try to do everything by yourself as long as you can, because the moment you have shareholders, and I don't necessarily say something bad, obviously, but you always have also other people's interests. You have to report to people, and you are a little less free. So if you value that, and you also maybe want to raise more capital, because the more sophisticated you are about what you're building and the project, because you already have customers, etc., you your company is already valued a lot more, and you don't need to hand out too many shares as you want to initially, because you need that amount of capital. So nothing against VCs. I'm also a VC and I love to be in that space, but try to only raise capital if you like really, really need it in order to grow.
Yeah. I think we also give that advice sometimes when we say that why are
Mhm.
you raising money? Like think again.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. How should founders navigate the bear market fundraising? I mean, for example, what's going on right now, I
yeah,
thought the ideal
yeah.
space to raise capital, but you really need money, so what to do?
Um, I guess, yeah, it is very difficult. Sometimes you can also think about just keep continuing building and stop like doing the fundraising stuff, or decrease your time in fundraising and increase your time in doing other things for the company, because sometimes there's nothing that you can do. Like if the market is currently the reason that a lot of VCs or companies are not actively investing, then you need to make the best out of it. You cannot force people to invest in your idea, or maybe search for business angels in that space. So especially like business angel Web3 people, they usually understand market conditions better than like basic VCs, so to say. But I think there is no formula in order to do like to be that. It's rather if you survive the beer market and are still a relevant company, then that makes you a lot stronger than you were before.
Yeah. Okay. Now
Beautiful. I think we're out of time, huh?
Mhm.
2
But
more
I just
minutes.
want to say there are two more, and
Mhm,
they are more like startup specific. So Ujjwal and Corey, you can just send us, this, and we can see how we can facilitate this to Victoria, perhaps if it's interesting for her. Okay, cool.
mhm.
Great. Yeah, then we wrap up. Thank you so much, Vicky, for taking our answers and joining this AMA. I mean, it was really wonderful and a lot of great insights. Yeah, we hope to send you some more information and connect you with our network a little stronger in the future. And
Mhm.
have enjoy your stay in Spain. You look very
Thank
relaxed. That
you.
is beautiful, and I hope the sun will do the best. And thanks for joining, everybody. Have fun and join our session tomorrow, I guess. Or right now starts the speed networking, where if you don't have a complete team, please join the remote speed networking, which starts in a minute. And tomorrow, please join our official kickoff session. Thanks a lot and have a great
Thank
day.
you.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone.
See
Bye.
you. Bye bye.